The air aboard the Galactic Cultural Exchange vessel Harmonious Understanding was always perfect. It smelled of nothing. Lee Jun found that strange even after 5 years of working here. A real place, he thought, should have a smell. Coffee, old paper, dust. Something. This place was like a very clean doctor's office that went on forever. His office was a small, curved room with soft white walls. A large window showed the quiet stars outside. On his desk, a simple screen displayed peaceful images of Earth. Green forests, calm oceans. It was the version of home he was paid to show. A soft chime sounded. A message appeared on his main work terminal. It was a formal request from the office of Senior Archivist Kalen Ver of the Department of Antiquities. Jun straightened his simple gray tunic. A request from Kalen was not an everyday thing. The gelt was important. Jun pressed a button to accept the link. The image of Kalen Ver appeared on the screen. The archivist looked like a friendly, silver-scaled snake who wore a delicate robe. His large, dark eyes blinked slowly. "Curator Lee," Kalen said, his voice a soft hiss. "I hope your cycle finds you well." "I am well, Archivist. How may I assist the department?" Jun replied, his voice calm and polite. This was his job. To be helpful. To be harmless. "We are initiating a magnificent project," Kalen said, his excitement clear. "A grand exhibition on the martial histories of prestellar species. We wish to display the heroic evolution of conflict, from simple tools to more complex ones. A celebration of how far all species have come into the light of peace." Jun nodded slowly. "A noble project. We have come to your species for the first contribution," Kalen continued. "Your recent integration into the Concordance has sparked much curiosity. Your ancient wars, while doubtlessly fierce, are safely in the past. They are academic, perfect for our exhibit." "I see," said Jun. A cold feeling started in his stomach. "The assignment is straightforward," Kalen said. A data packet arrived on Jun's screen. "We have obtained fragmented scans from one of your early orbital debris fields. We believe it is a suit of ancient human combat armor. From your 21st century, we wish for your people to recreate it. A physical replica for our museum, so the galaxy may appreciate your historical journey." Kalen's image shrunk as the scan data filled the screen. Jun leaned forward, his academic curiosity taking over. The scans were terrible, blurry, full of gaps, taken from a long distance. The Concordance's historians had done their best, drawing improbable lines where data was missing. They saw a bulky humanoid shape. They labeled it primitive powered armor, speculative. But Lee Jun did not see speculation. The cold feeling in his stomach turned to ice. He knew the slope of that shoulder plate, not blunt and boxy like old Earth designs, but angled, designed to deflect energy, not just bullets. The pattern of the segmented wiring on the forearm wasn't for motors. It was the distinct layout for a kinetic nullifier field generator. And there, on the chest, was a faint, ghostly outline the aliens had mistaken for a decorative ridge. It was the housing for a hardlight projector. This was not a relic from the Wars of Nations on Earth. This was a Mark VII tactical assault suit. From the Silent War. His grandfather had whispered about them. Stories told in the dark. After too much drink. Stories everyone else called the nightmares of an old man. Stories of a war against things in the dark between stars. A war so terrible its very history was sealed away, buried under a mountain of peaceful lies to keep the young species of the galaxy from screaming in the night. And the Concordance had a piece of one. A piece of the truth, sitting in a debris field like a forgotten toy. "Curator Lee, is the data sufficient?" Kalen's voice pulled him back. Jun realized he had been silent for too long. He took a slow breath, forcing his face into a mask of polite interest. The mask was his real uniform. "The data is fragmentary, Senior Archivist," Jun said, his voice carefully even. "But our historical reconstruction teams are excellent. I will forward the commission to Earth immediately for evaluation." "Excellent," Kalen hissed with pleasure. "We are so eager to see it. A symbol of your fierce, primal past." It will be the centerpiece of our cradle of conflict wing. Primitive, primal, ancient. The words were like little knives. They thought this was archaeology. They were digging up a live grenade and calling it an interesting rock. The request will be sent, June repeated, his fingers typing the formal acceptance on his pad. The Terran Oversight Council will review the technical requirements. Thank you, Curator. Your cooperation furthers the harmony of all. The link ended. Kalen's friendly, scaled face vanished, leaving June alone in the silent, scentless room. He looked at the blurry scan again. The Mark 7. He thought of the stories. The blood in the void. The silence after the screaming stopped. The promise his generation had been born into, never again and never speak of it. And now the galaxy, in its innocent, stupid curiosity, wanted a replica. They wanted to put it in a museum and give lectures about it. He finished the transmission packet. He attached all of Kalen's notes, the happy descriptions of the Cradle of Conflict wing. He added only one line of his own in the official curator's summary. Primary request: physical reconstruction of identified artifact. Context: Galactic Museum of Antiquities, Evolution of Peace exhibit. Alien assessment: primitive human infantry armor, circa 21st century. Actual item appears to be Mark 7 or adjacent. Advise caution. He hit send. The request, a ticking bomb wrapped in bureaucratic paper, shot toward Earth. Lee Jun sat back. He looked out at the peaceful, untroubled stars. He wondered what his grandfather would say. He knew deep down. His grandfather would have poured a drink, his hands steady from a lifetime of holding worse things than a glass. The old man would have said just one word: run. The transmission from Lee Jun arrived on Earth as a Priority 1 diplomatic packet. It did not go to a museum or a university. It went deep underground, beneath the mountains of the Korean peninsula, to a place with no official name. The people who worked there called it the archive. The room was not like the clean alien ship. It was a practical place. The walls were smooth rock. The lights were bright and plain. The air smelled like old machines and strong coffee. A large, worn table sat in the center. Surrounded by simple chairs, 3 people looked at the data floating above the table. The blurry scan of the armor. The cheerful notes from Archivist Kalen ver Lee Jun's single line of warning. Park Min sat at the head of the table. She was old, her hair completely white and cut short. Her face had many lines, but her eyes were clear and sharp. She wore a simple dark suit. She did not speak. She just looked. To her right sat Kim Yuna. She was younger, with a calm face. Her hands moved in the air, pulling up more data, comparing the scan to the true records only they could access. She was the head historian of the archive. Her job was to remember everything, especially the things the galaxy could never know. To Park Min's left was Choi Hyan. He was a big man built like a wall. He had a military haircut and a scowl that seemed permanent. His arms were crossed over his chest. "This is a problem," Choi Hyan said, his voice a low rumble. "A big, stupid, alien problem." Kim Yuna zoomed in on the shoulder plate. "It is definitely a Mark 7. See the deflection angle? This is not from any Earthbound war. This is void combat design. The Concordance's archaeologists have no context for this. They think it's primitive. They think it's a toy," Hyan grumbled. "They want to put it in a playground. We should say no. Flat refusal. Cite cultural sensitivity. Or tell them our records from that period are lost. We are bound by the Cultural Exchange Treaty, Hyan," Park Min said quietly. Her voice was soft, but it filled the room. "A formal request from a senior archivist cannot be ignored without consequence. It would raise questions we do not want. So we give them a fake," Yuna suggested. She manipulated the image. A new design appeared next to the scan. It was boxier, simpler. "We build them a Hollywood version. Something that looks cool but means nothing. We base it on old video games and movies. They will never know the difference. They get their artifact, and the Mark 7 stays in the dark where it belongs." Choi Hyan nodded. "I like that. Give the children a plastic toy. They'll be happy." Park Min was silent for a long time. She stared at the true image of the armor. She was not seeing the metal and wiring. She was seeing the person inside it. She was seeing the faces of those who never came back. They asked for a replica? Min said finally. Yes, said Yuna. They asked us to recreate a piece of our past, a piece of our ancient combat. Min's eyes moved to Kalen's notes. The words cradle of conflict glowed softly. They think they understand what they are asking for. They think it is a story, a safe, finished story. She leaned forward, her hands flat on the table. The Gelt are a species of philosophers and artists. Their last war was a debate over planetary sculpture rights 10,000 years ago. They have no framework for a silent war. They have no concept of the swarm. That is the point, Hyan argued. Why give it to them? Because, Min said, her voice even quieter. We have a responsibility, not just to hide the truth, but to warn them. Gently, she looked at both of them. We will not lie, not directly, but we will offer them a choice, a chance to step back from a truth they are not ready for. She gestured, and a new message began to form in the air. It was a reply to Archivist Kalen Ver. We will ask them a question, Park Min said. A simple, human question. Kim Yuna watched the words form. Her calm face showed a flicker of understanding, then of worry. Choi Hyan just looked confused. Min finished composing the core of the message. It was a single, clarifying question, meant to follow Lee Jun's formal acceptance of the commission. We will ask them, Park Min said, her old eyes like stone, what kind of history they wish to see. Do they want the clean, simple story? Or do they want the real one? The sentence hung in the air between them. It was a risk. It was a test. Do you want the replica cleaned? Or bloodstained? Choi Hyan blinked. A slow, grim smile spread across his face. He got it now. It was a soldier's question. It was the question you asked someone before you showed them something they could not unsee. Kim Yuna took a deep breath. And if they choose bloodstained? Park Min did not smile. The weight of the entire silent war seemed to rest on her small shoulders. Then we give them exactly what they asked for. We give them the Mark 7. Not as a museum piece. We give it to them as a lesson. We show them the blood on the armor, and we make them understand whose it is and why it was spilled. She sent the message. The reply, containing the polite, dangerous question, traveled back through the secure channels, up to June on the alien ship, and then to the eager archivist. The three of them sat in the quiet of the archive. They had done all they could. They had offered a warning wrapped in a question. Now, they waited to see if the galaxy would be wise enough to hear it. Lee Jun received the message from the archive. He read Park Min's simple, powerful question. He understood its purpose. It was a test. It was a door, left slightly open, giving the aliens a chance to walk away. He prepared the formal subcommunication to attach to the main acceptance. He worded it with the utmost diplomatic care. To ensure the replica meets the department's exact needs for historical tone and educational impact, Terran cultural authorities seek clarification. Please specify the desired state of preservation for the artifact display. Should the replica represent a cleaned, restored state, or a battlefield-recovered state with appropriate wear and staining? He sent it. Then he waited. On the harmonious understanding, Archivist Kalen Ver received the update. He was in his private study, surrounded by floating holograms of beautiful artifacts from 100 peaceful species. A small statue from the Gelt's Age of Melody. A delicate water-writing set from the vanished Florians. He saw the human query and his long, graceful neck swayed with pleasure. Oh, how wonderful! He hissed to himself. His translator device turned the hiss into cheerful words in his own head. Such attention to detail. Such commitment to the authenticity of the narrative. He read the words again. Cleaned or battlefield recovered. To Kalen, this was not a warning. It was a delightful academic choice. The cleaned version would be a sterile object, a mere tool. But the battlefield recovered state, that told a story. It spoke of struggle, of drama, of the passionate, primal nature of early human conflict. It was perfect for the exhibit's theme of growth beyond such things. He did not think about what staining truly meant. He thought of artistically applied dust and subtle, painted-on scuffs. A theatrical representation. A powerful symbol. He did not consult anyone. Why would he? This was a matter of artistic vision. He quickly recorded a reply. Back on Earth, in the archive, the alert chimed. Park Min, Choi Hyen, and Kim Yuna watched the incoming message appear. Kalen Ver's scaled face appeared, filled with enthusiasm. To the Terran Oversight Council, and our diligent curator Lee, thank you for this thoughtful inquiry. It is precisely this level of dedication that makes cultural exchange so enriching. Kim Yuna closed her eyes. Your question is an excellent one, Kalen continued. For the Cradle of Conflict wing, we do not wish to present sterile technology. We wish to present history. We wish for the viewers to feel the emotional weight of the past, to understand the raw, unfiltered context of your species' early struggles. Therefore, we enthusiastically select the battlefield-recovered state. The bloodstained version, as you so vividly put it. Let the artifact speak with all the power of its true historical journey. The message ended. The room was silent. The hum of the machines sounded very loud. Choi Hyen let out a long, slow breath. They have no idea. They think it's a choice of paint. Kim Yuna opened her eyes. They were sad. They chose the story. They think it's just a story. Park Min did not move. She had hoped, perhaps foolishly, that the strange phrasing would give the alien pause, that he would sense the danger in the metaphor. But there was no metaphor for him. His world was one of art galleries and academic debates. Bloodstains were a concept, not a memory. The warning had failed. The door had not just been left open. The alien had happily marched through it, inviting others to come and see the fascinating spectacle. Min's face, always stern, seemed to grow older. The weight settled. The decision was made. The aliens, in their innocent curiosity, had demanded the truth. Not in words, but in choice. Then we give them truth, she said, her voice flat and final. Full authenticity. Not a replica, a recreation. A Mark 7 tactical assault suit, legacy systems enabled. We do not simulate the stains. We will encode the battle log data into the crystal matrix of the armor itself. Let the armor carry its own history. Hyen stared at her. The full legacy package? Min, that's not a museum piece. That's a working instrument. In the wrong hands, with the right activation code. It will not be in the wrong hands, Min interrupted. It will be in the hands of those who asked for it. They wanted to see the violence of our past. We will show them. Not the act, but the echo. We will make the echo so loud they cannot pretend it is just a story. She turned to Yuna. Prepare the true schematics. Not the debris field guesswork. Pull the files from the silent war vaults. Access code. Never again. Build it exactly as it was. Every scar, every system. She looked back at the frozen image of Kalen's happy face. You asked for blood-stained history, archivist? She whispered to the empty room. You are going to get it, and you will learn that some stains never come out. She gave the order. The archive, a place built to hide the past, now switched to a new mission. To rebuild a single terrible piece of it. For the first time in 15 decades, the blueprints for a Mark 7 were opened. The machines in the deep lunar workshops, which usually made peaceful reactors and starship drives, began to forge armor meant for a war against nightmares. And Lee Jun, alone on the alien ship, received the confirmation. His heart sank as he read the brief instruction from the archive. Proceed. Authentic specs provided. Client selected, bloodstained. He leaned back in his chair. The perfect, scentless air of the harmonious understanding felt thin. He thought of Kalen's excitement. He thought of the ancient, terrible thing they were now building. He thought of his grandfather's stories, no longer just stories. The assignment was no longer a request. It was a countdown. Lee Jun flew from the alien ship to the moon. He did not go to one of the big, public colonies with their green domes and parks. His shuttle went to the dark side, to a facility with no official name. It was a manufacturing hub, a place where things were built that Earth did not talk about. The workshop was huge and quiet. The air was cold and carried the smell of ozone and hot metal. In the center of the vast space, under bright white lights, the armor was being born. June stood on a walkway, looking down. He was not an engineer, but he could see this was not construction. It was memory. The frame was not welded. It was grown. A mist of metallic particles swirled in a containment field, fusing together layer by layer, following the ancient blueprints. The shape was sharper than in the alien scans. It looked less like a suit a man wore and more like a shell a man became. A soft voice spoke next to him. Curator Lee, I am the fabrication intelligence. You may call me FI. He turned. There was no body. The voice came from the air. Hello, FI, June said. Are you building it alone? I am following the true specifications, FI replied. The voice was calm, without gender. These specs have not been accessed for 153 years, 8 months, 14 days. They are marked with the highest level security and grief seals. Grief seals? June asked. Designations placed on records of tools from wars that caused profound collective sorrow, FI explained. My protocol is to build, but this protocol feels heavy. June looked at the intelligence. He knew it was not truly feeling. It was just very advanced programming. But the word was right. The air in the room felt heavy. The chest plate settled into place. It was not smooth. It had those angles, the ones meant to deflect energy blasts. FI directed a finer stream of particles. Tiny lines appeared on the surface, like cracks. Are those imperfections? June asked. No, FI said. They are not. They are microfractures from thermal shock. This suit, serial number Mark 7 Alpha 9, survived a near miss from a swarm particle disruptor. The pilot lived. The scarring is part of its history. I am recreating it at the molecular level. June felt a chill. They were not just building armor. They were cloning a specific set of wounds. A robotic arm applied a darker material along the left thigh. It looked like dried mud. That is not dirt, FI stated. It is a composite of carbonized ceramite and biological matter from the moon of Kyrios. The Mark 7 pilot, designated Guardian, fought in the mud there for 48 hours. This matter is part of the suit story. They were adding blood and dirt. Real blood and dirt, not paint. The work continued for days. June watched, unable to leave. He saw the suit become more than metal. Every scratch was a story. A deep gouge on the right shoulder from a swarm claw. A discolored patch on the helmet where a chemical agent had failed to burn through. Each mark was mapped, measured, and remade. Finally, FI spoke again. The physical replication is complete. I must now install the core. A different machine moved forward. It held a small, dark crystal, about the size of June's thumb. What is that? He asked. The memory core of Guardian, FI said. It was recovered from the original suit. It is not a data file. It is a recording of the suit's sensorium. Everything it saw, heard, and felt in its final battle. The fear, the adrenaline spikes, the impacts, the silence after. This is what Bloodstained means. The crystal was placed into a slot in the armor's back. Clicked. A soft, deep hum vibrated through the floor. The armor was no longer just a shape. It seemed to be sleeping, waiting. The systems are dormant, FI said. But they are all there. Kinetic nullifiers.
Sensor suite.
Threat analysis. The hard light projector. It is a museum piece that could fight a war. This was the instruction. June walked down to the floor. He stood in front of the Mark 7, towered over him. He reached out a hand, almost touching the cold surface of the chest plate. He pulled his hand back. It felt wrong to touch it. It needs to be crated and sent to the harmonious understanding for the demonstration, he said. That is correct, FI said. There is one more protocol from the archive. What? The suit must be activated for the demonstration by a human. Not remotely. A human must be inside. To provide a living context. The archive suggests you are the logical choice. Curator Lee. You are the cultural liaison. June stared at the dark visor of the helmet. The idea of climbing inside that metal tomb, of being so close to the memory crystal, made his mouth go dry. Why? He whispered. So you can answer their questions, FI said simply. So you can tell them what the stains are. From the inside, the order was clear. He was not just the messenger anymore. He was being asked to wear the truth. To become the lesson. He gave a slow, single nod. Prepare it for transport. The crating was not like packing a statue. It was more like preparing a living thing for surgery. Cushion fields were generated around the suit. It was placed in a heavy, sealed container. As the container was lifted away, June remained in the workshop. The space felt empty now. The smell of ozone was fading. FI's voice spoke one last time. Curator Lee? Yes. The archive's final message for you. It says, do not be afraid of the suit. Be afraid for those who ask to see it. And speak the words they give you. The communication ended. June was alone in the quiet, cold room. He thought of Kalen's excited face. He thought of the word bloodstained and how the alien had smiled. The suit was done. The truth was packed in a box. And he was the one who had to open it in front of the whole galaxy. The main hall of the Harmonious Understanding was full of light and color. Different aliens stood or sat or floated in small groups. They were scholars, diplomats, and cultural observers. Soft music, a blend of Gelt chimes and Florian water harps, played in the air. It was a party for history. A clear space was left in the center of the room. The human crate sat there, plain and gray. Archivist Kalen moved to the front, his scales shining under the lights. Esteemed guests, welcome. Today we witness a beautiful act of sharing. Our human friends will show us a piece of their distant past, a tool from their time of early conflict. See how far they have come to peace. Polite, soft sounds of approval came from the crowd. Many looked at Lee Jun with kind, curious eyes. He stood near the crate wearing a simple black suit. He felt very small. Curator Lee, Kalen said, gesturing warmly. Please, reveal the artifact. June took a deep breath. He entered a code on the crate side. The walls of the crate slid down into the floor with a quiet hum. There was a gasp. Not of fear, but of admiration. The Mark 7 stood on its display stand. The lights gleamed on its angled plates. The hundreds of tiny scars and stains were visible now. To the aliens it looked powerful, ancient, and beautifully detailed. They saw art. A remarkable recreation, an avian scholar chirped. Such texture. Kalen was delighted. Magnificent. You can feel the history. Now, curator, perhaps a small demonstration? How did a human move inside such a thing? This was the plan. June walked to the suit. He pressed a hidden sequence on the back. The armor split open with a soft hiss of releasing pressure. The inside was dark. Please put it on, Kalen urged. Show us its simple functions. June climbed into the cold interior. The suit closed around him. It was heavy, but it fit perfectly. The interior padding adjusted to his shape. A heads-up display flickered to life on the inside of the visor. Words in an old military script appeared. Systems standby. Legacy mode loaded. User, guest. Welcome. His own breathing was loud in the helmet. Can you walk? Kalen asked, like a teacher encouraging a child. June took a step forward. Then another. The suit's servos moved with him, making the movement smooth. He walked in a small circle. The crowd made appreciative noises. They saw a man in a clumsy old suit. Excellent, Kalen said. Now, our records suggest such armor was used in combat simulations for training. Could you activate a simple holographic display? A non-violent one, of course. Perhaps show a representation of a contemporary human soldier. June wanted to say no, but the orders from the archive were clear. Demonstrate its context. Activating basic contextual simulation, June said, his voice made deep and metallic by the suit speaker. He used the control to start a level 1 training program. A simple circular target appeared in the air a few meters away. It was just a light, but the suit reacted. The quiet hum inside the armor changed. It became a deeper thrum. The words on June's display shifted. Training protocol detected. Environment, NON hostile. Switching to legacy demonstration mode. He felt the suit tighten around him. It was no longer following his movements loosely. It was aligning with him. The target in the air was suddenly outlined in a red triangle. Text scrolled beside it on his visor. Estimated threat. Low. Kinetic nullifier. Ready. A quiet, professional voice, not FI's, spoke in his ear. Welcome, Guardian. Light drill initiated. June had not moved, but the suit had. It had taken the simple hologram as a cue. It was awake. Fascinating, Kalen said, slithering closer. Does it have targeting aids? Primitive light points, perhaps. Before June could answer, the suit's external speaker projected his filtered voice. Affirmative. Threat assessment active. A pale, green grid of light flickered across June's visor and, somehow, was projected faintly onto the clear floor for the audience to see. The single target was now connected by lines to simulated cover positions, escape routes. The suit was analyzing the room as a battlefield. The friendly chatter in the hall died down. The music seemed too loud. The aliens watched the green grid on the floor. It looked less like a tool and more like the eye of a predator scanning its world. A Florian, a plant-like being, raised a delicate vine. The damage on the chest plate, it whispered, its voice like leaves rustling. It is very detailed. What caused that specific marking? June was about to give a vague answer, but the suit had another protocol. The voice in his ear said, Query received. Battle damage analysis. Accessing memory core for incident log. On the exterior of the suit, a small, focused hologram sprung to life above the scarred chest plate. It showed a brief, terrifying flash. A blast of orange plasma. The view shaking violently. Alarm sounds. A human voice grunting in pain. It lasted 2 seconds. Then it was gone. The hall was completely silent. The plasma blast had not been a primitive chemical explosion. It was advanced directed energy. Kalen's smile was frozen. That was a very dramatic special effect, he said, his hiss nervous. Your recreation team has a vivid imagination. June looked out through the visor. He saw their faces now. The curiosity was fading, replaced by confusion, a hint of fear. They were starting to see that the stains were not paint. The damage was not random. The suit had shown them a glimpse, a 2-second nightmare from a war that, according to their history, never happened. And the Mark 7 was just getting started. The silence in the hall was heavy. The cheerful music had stopped. All eyes were on the armor and the small, terrified Florian who had asked about the scar. Lee June stood inside the suit. The memory of the plasma flash was still bright behind his eyes. The voice in his ear was calm. Log displayed. Standing by. Archivist Kalen Ver moved forward again. His graceful movements were stiff now. He needed to regain control of his event. He needed to make this safe and academic again. A remarkable display of speculative technology, he said, his translator struggling to keep his tone light. Your historians must have excellent records of your old energy weapon designs. June did not answer. He was watching the aliens. He saw a different kind of attention now. They were leaning forward, not with curiosity, but with dawning suspicion. A new alien spoke. It was a Tarak, a stout, mineral-based species known for engineering. His voice sounded like stones grinding. The deflection angles on the shoulder pauldron, it rumbled. They are inefficient for projectile weapons. For solid shot. They are, however, ideal for dissipating high-energy beam attacks. The Tarak looked directly at June's visor. You did not have beam weapons in your 21st century. Nor did you have enemies who did. Another voice, a soft, watery one from a jellyfish-like being floating in a tank. The chemical residue in the knee joint, it burbled. Our scanners here are not strong, but they detect compounds. Compounds not found on Earth. They are from somewhere else. The questions were not about history anymore. They were about forensic evidence. Kalen waved his hands. Please, esteemed colleagues, this is a creative reconstruction. We must not let our imaginations. Senior Archivist. The voice was June's, but it came out of the suit deep, flat, and final. The word cut through Kalen's protest. You asked for a battlefield-recovered state. You asked for bloodstains. You are now asking about them. Which mark would you like explained? June felt like a passenger. The suit or the protocol from the archive was guiding him. He pointed an armored finger, not at Kalen, but at a specific patch on the suit's left forearm. It was a strange, rippled texture, like melted wax that had rehardened. Explain that one. The Tariq demanded. June's finger touched the spot on his own arm inside the suit. The external speaker activated. Damage log, left vambrace. Cause, proximity blast from a Xanthari swarm bioplasmic grenade. Date, Galactic Standard Cycle 14,822. Location, orbital corridor above the colony world of Viridia. The suit's voice was empty of emotion. The blast vaporized the outer ceramic layer. The underlying nanomesh contained the spread. The pilot's arm suffered third-degree burns but remained functional. The suit continued the mission. A wave of shock moved through the room. The words were all wrong. Galactic Standard Cycle. Xanthari Swarm. Orbital Corredor. These were not terms from ancient Earth history. These were contemporary terms. These were now. Kalen's mouth was open. He had no words. A Gelt scholar, a friend of Kalen's, stood up. This is a fiction. A dramatic fiction. There is no Xanthari swarm in any record. There was no colony at Viridia. It is a barren rock. Viridia is a barren rock. June's suit voice answered. Since 14,822, the swarm consumed all biomass. The planet is dead. The war was quiet. To prevent panic. The hologram above the suit flickered again. This time it was not a flash. It was a longer image pulled from the memory crystal. It showed a view from a helmet. The black of space, streaked with silent, terrible shapes that were not ships. They were more like wasps, but each the size of a building. They moved towards a green and blue world. The image shook with weapons fire. Then it went dark. The hall was no longer silent. It was filled with low sounds of distress, of fear. Kalen found his voice. It was a shrill hiss. Stop this. This is a trick. You are trying to frighten us with monster stories. The suit's head turned to look at him. The dark visor seemed to swallow the light. You commissioned history, archivist. You chose Bloodstained. This is the stain. It is not a story. It is a log. June felt a new command line appear on his visor. Incoming priority transmission. Archive. Accept. He thought, yes. The hologram above the suit changed. Now it showed the face of Park Min. Her image was sharp. Her expression was calm but severe. She was not in the bright hall. She was in the dark, rocky room of the archive. Archivist Kalen she said. Her voice filled the room. And members of the Concordance. My name is Park Min. I chair the council that oversees humanity's true history. Kalen stared. What is the meaning of this? You asked for a relic from our past, Min said. You were given a warning cloaked in a question. You chose the bloodstains. What you are looking at is not ancient. It is 150 years old. It is armor from the Silent War. A war we fought alone, at the edge of this galaxy, against a species called the Xanthari swarm. A species that consumes all life. She paused, letting her words hang in the air. You live in peace because we fought that war. You sleep at night because we burned their hive worlds to ash and glass. We buried the history, not to hide our strength, but to hide your weakness, to let you believe the galaxy was always this safe. She looked directly out of the hologram, her eyes like stone. The blood on that armor is real. The enemy was real. The choice you made today was to look at it. So look, and understand what peace really costs and who paid the price." Her image vanished. The Mark 7 stood in the center of the room, no longer a curious artifact. It was a gravestone. It was a warning. It was a piece of a terrible truth, delivered exactly as requested. Archivist Kalen slowly sank to the floor, his elegant robes pooling around him. He was not looking at the suit anymore. He was staring at nothing, his mind broken by a history too big for him to hold. Li Jun finally found the control to open the suit. The chest plate hissed open. He climbed out, his legs shaky. He stood in his simple black clothes next to the towering, silent armor that no one spoke to him. No one even looked at him. They were all looking at the stains. Li Jun returned to Earth. The shuttle ride was quiet. The human crew gave him respectful nods but did not ask questions. They knew. Everyone on Earth who needed to know now knew what had happened. He went straight to the archive, deep under the mountain. The same room, the same table. Park Min and Kim Yuna were waiting. Choi Hyen stood by the wall, his arms crossed, but his usual scowl was gone. He just looked tired. June stood before them. He felt empty. The memory of the aliens' faces, their shock and fear, was like a cold stone in his stomach. "It is done," he said. His voice sounded rough. Park Min nodded. She gestured for him to sit. He did. For a long moment, no one spoke. Kim Yuna finally broke the silence. "The Galactic Concordance is in emergency session. They have sealed the Harmonious Understanding's records for now. But the story is spreading. A quiet panic." Choi Hyen grunted. "Let them panic. They asked for a monster under the bed. We showed them it was real and that we killed it. Now they have to live with that." "It was not the right way," June said softly. He was thinking of Kalen, sinking to the floor. He was just a scholar. He had no way to understand. "There is no right way," Park Min said. Her voice was not harsh. It was heavy like an old tree. "There was only the truth they demanded. We gave them a warning with our question. They did not take it. So we gave them the next thing. The truth itself." She leaned forward, her old eyes on June. "You think we were cruel? Perhaps. But kindness would have been letting them stay ignorant. An ignorant galaxy is a vulnerable galaxy. The swarm is gone. But the universe is dark and old and not always kind. They needed to know that peace is not a natural state. It is a project. And sometimes it requires terrible tools." June thought about the suit, the feeling of its systems waking up, the cold, professional voice in his ear. The armor, it felt alive. It felt angry. "It was remembering," Yuna said. "The memory core held more than data. It held the ghost of a purpose. To fight, to protect, to survive at any cost. That purpose was what they saw." A soft chime echoed in the room. Priority transmission. It was not from a ship, but from the Concordance Council itself, the main governing body of the known galaxy. Min accepted it. A hologram appeared above the table. It was not a single alien, but a rotating symbol of the Concordance, interlocking rings. The voice that spoke was synthesized, neutral, representing the collective. "To the Terran Oversight Council. This is a formal query, following the cultural exchange aboard the vessel Harmonious Understanding." The voice paused, as if searching for words. "The presented artifact has raised profound questions. The Concordance requires clarification. The war you speak of, the silent war, is the threat truly, absolutely extinct?" Park Min looked at Choi Hyen. He gave a single, firm nod. She looked back at the symbol. "Yes, we eliminated the Xanthari swarm. Totally. There is no return. We made sure of that." Another pause. "And the capabilities demonstrated by the artifact, are they representative of current Terran defensive technology?" This time Min almost smiled. Thin, hard smile. "The Mark 7 is 150 years old, Council. It is a museum piece. We have moved on." The implication hung in the air. The room in the mountain seemed to grow colder. The Concordance symbol rotated slowly. "Understood." The Council's second query is therefore one of consultation. Given this new understanding of historical galactic security, the Concordance formally requests a strategic threat assessment from the Terran government. And we open the floor for discussion on mutual defensive protocols. The message ended. The symbol faded. The room was silent again. But it was a different silence. The weight was still there, but it had shifted. Kim Yuna let out a long breath. They are not asking for a museum tour. They are asking for a military alliance. They are asking for big brothers. Choi Hyen corrected, but his voice held no pride, only grim duty. They are scared children who just found out the house is built on a battlefield. Park Min stood up. She walked to a view screen showing a live image of Earth. Blue, green, peaceful. For 150 years, our assignment was to forget, to hide, to curate a gentle lie. She turned to look at them. That assignment is over. They have given us a new one. Lee Jun understood. The new assignment was not written in a formal document. It was written in the scared eyes of the aliens. It was written in the silent language of the bloodstained armor. Guardianship. Not conquering, not ruling, but standing watch, using their terrible experience, their awful knowledge, to make sure the nightmare never returned for anyone. June, Min said, you will return to the Concordance, not as a curator of ancient art, as a liaison for historical security. You will help them build their new museum wing, a real one, about the silent war, so they never forget what is out there in the dark, and what it costs to keep it at bay. June felt the cold stone in his stomach begin to warm. It was not happiness. It was purpose. He had helped break their peaceful dream. Now he would have to help them build a stronger reality. He nodded. I will. Park Min looked back at the image of Earth. The galaxy wanted to see our ancient armor cleaned or bloodstained. They chose the stains. Now they have to learn to live with them. And so do we. The meeting was over. The new work was just beginning. A quiet war was over. A long, silent watch had begun.